Well, hello, family, and welcome to another episode of One on One with E. Dewey Smith, right here on the Hope TV. I am so excited that you've tuned into another segment. This is our legacy series, and it brings a whole lot of joy to have this opportunity to share with you. So do me a favor, call a friend, call a relative, and call a neighbor, and let them know that One on One is on the Hope TV network. Let them know, no matter if they're a child, if they're middle-aged, they're forever young. Let them know that the Hope TV is on the airways with One on One, and we are ecstatic and we are excited. And while you're watching, why don't you consider subscribing to the channel? Make sure you hit that like button. It's very, very important. It helps us with our algorithms and helps us to expand. Make your comments, send your questions, and most importantly, share this link. Share with your friends, share with everybody. Some great, great inspiration, some great, great hope. Of course, we live in a day where there's a lot of bad news, a lot of negativity, but today, real, rich, authentic conversations that can help us to live a long time. This is the second segment in our legacy series. Some of you watched the first part. We were blessed to have the oldest member of our church, Mother Lula Spencer, who is 103 years young. She'll be 104 years of age on August 3rd of this year. And hello, Ms. Spencer. We're waiting for that birthday party, and so we're excited about that, and we thank God for just a great, great time. You know, we're one church that ministers to 5 generations, and we have so much wisdom and so much richness and so many powerful stories. And today I am, in the words of my late mother, tickled pink to have this opportunity to present a man who we have a lot of respect for. He is the longest tenured male member of our church. You heard me right. The longest tenured male member of our church. As a matter of fact, our church this year is 146 years of age. May of 1876 was this church formed there in East Atlanta on a road that is now Flat Shoals Avenue, 146 years ago. I'm proud to tell you today that the person that we're going to be interviewing has been a part of this church for 74 years. I mean, literally half of the existence of this church, he's been a part of the church. And so I want to welcome to One on One today, the longest tenured male member of our church, who's just as smart and just as smooth as he wants to be, John R. Cox. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Thank you. Very well, very well.
I appreciate you being a part.
I'm humbled and honored, sir.
Man, 74 years?
Yes. And you know, growing up in the church, that phrase of it takes a village to raise a child,
yes,
it was really true. I can remember when I was a kid, I knew all the mothers and all the deacons of that church. And when they told you to do something, you did. It was no questions asked.
Wow.
The worst thing you could do is to do something and tell your parents, I really didn't do it. That meant you was calling mother so-and-so a lie, and that would never work. But church was wonderful. I don't think I knew anybody who wasn't a member of the church. Vestal Lattimore was my babysitter.
Wow.
Gloria Shepherd made sure I caught the right bus to go to church. And every Sunday, Sunday school, church, was that Baptist Training Union, then evening service, all day in church.
Every Sunday?
Every Sunday, till I was in the 12th grade.
Wow. So you grew up in the Edgewood community?
On Mason Avenue.
Tell me a little bit, man. I've heard so many stories about Edgewood and Mason Avenue. Give me some of your fondest recollections.
Well, at that time, you knew, if you either went to Beulah, Travelers Rest, Antioch, or Smith Chapel, and you knew what family went where. And anybody who knew your family could straighten you out.
Wow.
Do whatever they wanted to you, make sure you got home safely and everything. So truly, the whole street was a village. The whole street was a village.
Wow. So did your parents also grow up on Mason Avenue, or did they move there?
Well, my mother grew up in a very small town named Fitzgerald, Georgia.
Fitzgerald, yeah.
Yeah, but they lived on Mason Avenue also. My dad was a deacon in the church. My mother was on the deacon wise. In fact, she was the president of deacon wise for like 22 years.
Wow.
So, I could do no wrong.
Right.
No. But
So you tell me, so your entire life up until 12th grade, you're in church all day on Sundays.
all day.
Now, how did that make you feel?
I said that once I got out grown, that I was not coming back to church. So I imitated the prodigal son for years. But then I came to the realization that it was better, I was doing better when I was in church than when I was being absent from church. So that taught me, when you're young and you're in church, you learn about being religious. You learn what to do. You need to pray, pay your tithes, read your Bible. But after you go out and you get on your own and you go back to church, it's no longer being religious. You've gotten a relationship because it was God that brought you back and brought you through everything that you've gone through. Now not only do you know what to do, but you know why to do it. And knowing why you're doing something is far more important than what you're doing.
Wow. So when did you know that you were just sick of church? I mean, because I was a preacher's kid, grandfather, preacher, and it can just be too much. So when did you make up your mind? I'm done with this.
When all my friends was doing everything I wanted to do, but I was at church.
Absolutely.
When I wanted to be playing football or going to the movies or playing cards on Sunday, none of those things was possible.
Right.
You did what was supposed to be done in church all day long.
Mm. And so how did your mother feel when you had your prodigal son days?
She just prayed for me. She knew, what's that saying? Teach a child when he's young, and when he grows old, he'll come back.
Yes.
So she knew sooner or later I would be back.
Wow.
And I had so many people praying for me, so it was just a matter of time.
Wow.
Then once I realized, that church was far better than the nightclub or wherever I was, and I went back, everything changed.
So your dad was a deacon, your
Yes.
mother's in the church. Now, what about any siblings?
Well, I only had one older brother.
Okay.
And he lived in New Jersey.
Okay.
But he was a friend of Reverend Shepard's and Hardy Butler and a whole group of them that grew up in church together.
Yeah, I heard Deacon Butler, and I met some of his family members years ago.
Right.
So you talked earlier about some of the people who are still involved in the church and how they help you. You mentioned Vashti Lattimore. You mentioned Gloria Shepherd.
Yes.
Talk about those relationships.
Well, Vashti, whenever I see Vashti, what she says, there's my Reuben, because she feels like she raised me, because she was my babysitter,
Wow.
for years. Well, until I got, old enough not to need a babysitter.
Right.
And I can remember my mother telling, Gloria was going to Howard High School and I was going to Our Lady of Lourdes. So she made sure that I got off the bus at Our Lady of Lourdes. So, and also she kept me straight on the bus.
Wow. So Vashti Lattimore was your babysitter.
Right. She'll never let me forget it.
And you have turned 81 this year?
81.
And when is your birthday?
March 14th.
So March 14th of 2022, you turned 81.
Right.
And Vashti Lattimore was your babysitter.
That's correct. And now I live in a no drama zone.
A no drama zone.
Peace that passes all understanding. I don't need no drama. I'm content with where I am. And all of this is because of the foundation that was built when I was at church as a young kid.
And Gloria Shepherd, y'all rode the bus together.
Yes.
Wow. Now tell us about your high school. Our Lady,
Well, I went to elementary school, Our Lady of Lourdes.
Our Lady, okay.
But high school, I went to Washington High because we moved from Mason Avenue to the west side.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I was the only kid at Travelers Rest that went to Washington High. Everyone else went to Howard.
Wow.
So that was interesting.
So even when you moved to the west side, you still kept your membership?
Right, because Reverend Shepherd had moved to the west side, so he would pick us up on the way to church.
Wow.
Every Sunday.
Every Sunday.
Yes.
Now tell me about Washington High School. I've heard about it. When I was in, of course, in high school, growing up in Middle Georgia, we would play basketball against some of the teams from Atlanta. Howard was one.
Right.
How was that experience at Washington High School?
Well, in those days, there was only 6 black high schools in the city of Atlanta.
6.
So the competition between Washington High, because they were the oldest two, was tremendous. So whenever Howard would beat Washington High, of course, I had a hard time at church. But it was all in love.
So Howard and Washington were the rivals?
Yes, well, yes, the biggest rivals.
I got you.
Yes.
Now, did you want to go to Howard?
No,
Okay. So,
no. After I moved to the West Side, I didn't want to go to Howard.
I got you.
No, I didn't want to come over here to church, so I didn't want to go to Howard.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
And so you had your prodigal son days.
Yes,
And, you know, I'm glad that you talked about that.
yes.
Because a lot of times people, when they get into church and when we get to a point of maturity, sometimes people have a tendency to forget those days.
No. You know, I look at those days, I call them my dumb, dumber, and dumbest days, you know. But then after I realized, if it hadn't been for those days, I got a PhD in having faith, believing in God, and trusting in God. But it was because of those days where I went astray that He brought me back, that I knew, you know, where to be,
Wow.
what to do, and why to do it.
Sometimes it's best not to say a whole lot at all
Yes, Lord.
when people are going through, because you can mean
Yes,
well,
yes.
but you can say
You just don't
the
know.
worst
thing in the world.
thing,
Yeah.
trying to be deep
Sure.
and trying to be retrospective.
Yes.
So, but for what could somebody who's going through something say to somebody and say, well, yeah, you just got to kind of move on.
Oftentimes they're uncomfortable with where you are, and that has more to do with them than it does you.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look.
They want some type of home, right? Or a lot of people are aspiring to own a business and or at least work for themselves. So having this relationship with a bank is only going to support most of the life goals that people have that are pushing them closer to financial freedom.
That's why credit unions came about, community banks came about, to help people that don't have enormous amount of money to get the same banking services that a wealthy person would offer. So I would suggest to anyone, if you come to Renaissance Bank, you would get treated as like anyone else.
For a person who may be watching this now, a young man who is in his prodigal son days, you know, what would you say to him? What kind of advice would you say to him?
Put God first. Put God first in your life, and everything else you want will come to you. I like to say, if you put God first, you'll never be second. You know, and everything you think is good and great out there in the street, it's all temporary. It's not going to last. You know, the only thing that's with God is what's going to last and keep you. So that would be my advice.
Isn't that powerful? And you talked about your mother and how when you moved to the West Side, Reverend Shepherd would pick you up.
Yes.
Talk about that relationship, please.
Well, see, Reverend Shepherd, Ralph Lattimore, Eugene Slaughter, all those were around the same age. Okay. So my mother adopted Reverend Shepherd, or Reverend Shepherd adopted her. So not only did he pick us up on Sunday, but if he went out of town to preach, he would take her with us sometimes.
Wow.
You know, so wherever he, you know, where the minister eats dinner on Sunday with mother, whoever, I went to. Wow. So, you know, like I said, the church was my village.
So you went to Sunday school, BTU, evening worship, and the Sunday dinner with the preacher.
Right.
Until you in the 12th grade.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Wow.
Yep.
And so your mother was just like a community, a mama for everybody.
Right. Everybody loved Lizzie Cox.
You know, when we talked about the circles and the women's circle, and Anna Pearl Freeman and so many
Right.
others. People always never had the opportunity to meet her, but to this day, I hear stories about Lizzie Cox.
Yeah, she did not play.
She did.
No, nothing. She didn't play anything. I can remember the kids, we were sitting in the back of the church and we were clowning. And Reverend Shepherd said, somebody stop those kids from clowning. My mother sat on the third row from the front of the church on the end. So you can imagine there was a lot of people between us. She turned around and looked dead in my eyes. And I knew then I never acted up in church again.
Just one look.
One look.
That's amazing. When I think about Reverend Shepherd and picking your mother up, and I met Pastor Shepherd, who became familiar with him through our Baptist convention years ago. Actually, I was familiar with Mrs. Shepherd first, but some of the stories of as he picked your mother up when he became the pastor of the church, same stories of him going through the community, picking up other young kids,
Right.
and bringing them to the church.
And he took kids to camp. He had a camp, so he would take them to camp. He was, I guess the word would be disciplined and responsible. Just think, for somebody to pick you up every Sunday, rain or shine, coming out of your way to pick somebody up, it's really a testament to how disciplined and how much he loved and cared for her.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Today, we're going to be making some key lime cupcakes.
Share some of your secret sauce on how to write a song.
It's very, very important for you to challenge yourself as a writer. So with gospel music, if you go back and you watch the lineage of gospel music, you have to learn how to take life experience and biblical content, because a lot of people will use life experience but don't have a biblical content to what they're doing. So then it's just a song, just a song.
We talk about you're 81 years young, and you've been part of this church for 74 years. Mm-hmm. What has it been about the Greater Travelers Rest Baptist Church that has kept you connected, and you're still active, and you're still present, you're still here, you're still serving, you're still vibrant after 74 years?
It's family. The church was truly a family. I mean, you knew everyone in the church, and I think the key thing, we fellowshiped. Even though I was in church every Sunday and I may not have wanted to be, I still was fellowshipping. Then on Wednesday, you had Bible study. And then my mother, when they had Mother's Board meeting, I was at Mother's Board meeting. My father was cleaned up the church. So when he cleaned up the church, I was there for that. So, that's what it was, fellowship. And they loved you. When they said, how are you doing? They wanted to know how you were doing. And if you were not doing well, they helped you.
So you've had the prodigal son days, came back to church, and then your own family, your own personal life, your own, children or whatever. How's that process been?
Oh, Well, to be completely honest, I wasn't the greatest dad in the world when you're out there being the prodigal son. But thanks to God and prayers and everything, we are great. You know, I have 3 daughters. I had a son, but he died early. So, you know, it's a beautiful thing. It's not because of me, it's because of God that the relationships are great and everything is wonderful.
Yeah, I've always heard that girls love their dads.
Yeah. I have one daughter who thinks she's the favorite. You know.
I'm sure. And so for the men out there who have been out there and made some mistakes, and you know, the reconciliation part with your daughter.
It's never too late. Once, like I said, once you put God in your life, you start reading that Bible, it's going to make you do what's right. You know, no matter how far to the left you may go, He will bring you back to the right.
Wow.
Put you in the proper perspective of everything you should do.
You know, what fascinates me about you, this is so good. What fascinates me about you is you take care of yourself. You're always sharper than the board of hell. Just as cool as a cucumber on the other side of a pillar. So how is it you maintain that level of just of vibrancy and youthfulness? I mean, how do you do that?
Well, you realize I came up in a generation, my generation, you dressed. You know, you didn't, where jeans are popular now in tennis shoes, you didn't wear jeans and tennis shoes, you were dressed. When you went to see your girlfriend on a Sunday, you were dressed. Okay, so it becomes a part of you. It's not something you think about, it's just something you do because that's what you do. So that's why, you know.
Now, was your dad the same way?
Oh, man, was he clean?
Clean.
Oh, clean. And he was a presser. He worked at a cleaner's. So his shoes and everything was always immaculate. And my mother thought she could dress too, so everything, you know, just fall in line.
So just got honest.
Right.
That's amazing. For people, you know, who attend church, but they don't get involved, you know, to develop those roots, I think that's a good place we can. I want to maybe close this out. What would you say to people about getting involved and why it's important to be involved in church?
Well, if you're not going to get involved, why are you there?
Wow.
I mean, you go to church to better yourself, to become better. So you just don't go to church just to sit in the pew. I mean, when you go to the club, you just didn't sit at the table. You got up and you became involved. So this is what you should do in church, to be a part of the church.
You know, I'm thankful for this opportunity. Every year, you know, especially, I mean, probably the last, I think 2007 is, maybe before, I'm not really sure, but we try to have special tributes to our church anniversary period. You know, we honor the people who've been here 50, 60, 70, 80 years, and you've always been one of the honorees. And so I've seen you, you know, climb with those groups, you know, from the 50s and now, you know, 74 years. And I'll always try to, you know, tease you a little bit about how smooth you are, and the church loves to see you walk down. But it was important for me to hear from you, to get the wisdom and to get the stories, because I think we've disconnected so much of our today from our yesterday. And I think that's a problem. We don't have these things that we can carry over. And so now to hear from you and to get the wisdom and to share it with people from a living testimony, because most Black men don't live to be 81 years young. And so I'm just grateful. And I mean, and look what all you survived. Civil rights movement. I mean, Jim Crow, still here, and just as memory, just as sharp, you know.
Some days.
Well, every time I see you, I just want you to know how much we appreciate you. It's great because often we celebrate the women that are part of the church, but we have a large, you know, percentage of men at the church. I want to highlight our men, particularly, and not just, you know, of course we're gonna celebrate the ladies; they deserve that, but men are part of it. Men have been foundational, and you, sir, are a stalwart. You are one of our generals, you know, in our faith here, and I appreciate you. So, if you have any last words of wisdom that you want to share with older, younger people, parents, church members, men, women, any parting words of wisdom that you feel led to share, I want you to share that.
I guess just keeping it simple. I would just say, put God first in your life. Put Him first, no matter what. Put him first. Be obedient to his will. And everything else works out. Don't worry, you know. He tells you don't fear, don't have fear.
Wow.
You know, why fear? There was one of the members of the church, and I can't remember his name. Whenever I see him, I say, how you doing? And he always said, I got it made.
Wow.
And that's true, you got it made. God's gonna take care of you, you got it made. So don't worry about these temporary joys and pleasures. No, get you something that's gonna last you forever, and that's God.
You know, you mentioned something earlier that I want to close out with it because you mentioned it twice. You mentioned when we first sat on stage and we started. And I think there's something to that. You talked about at this stage in your life being at peace.
Oh man.
What does that mean? Does that mean there's a place you haven't been? Is there a place you've been more recently?
No.
How did you get to that place?
Peace means that no matter what comes your way, it doesn't change you. You know, of course there are things I would like to have, but it doesn't matter if I never get them because I'm at peace with where I am. Well, I think you guys said, you're good in your own skin. Well, I'm good in my own skin, you know. Whatever comes my way, it's fine. Like the member says, I got it made.
You got it made.
If I got a problem, I pray it'll go away.
Wow.
No?
Got it made.
Got it made. Got it made. Or they said got it made in the shade.
Well, listen, family, you've been watching One-on-One. This is part of our Legacy series, and I wish you could see this little heart of mine to be able to get the wisdom and have this kind of interaction with this special person. I mean, John R. Cox has been a part of this place for 74 years. Out of his 81 years of living, he's been here 74 of those years. And that's the kind of commitment that we need. You know, a father, church member, and God has provided for him. And just want you to know that the same way God has provided for Lula Spencer for 103 years, John R. Cox for 81 years, same God will provide for you. If you put him first, pray and believe, stay around positivity, and believe by faith that you got it made in the shade. So, sir, thank you for being a part of that.
Thank you, sir.
It means the world to have you here with us, and this is incredibly special to us. And you've encouraged and inspired a lot of people today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
you.
All right, you've been watching One-on-One. I hope you share this. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like buttons, and make sure you share it. It won't cost you anything. And so you can help us to expand and double our platform right now just by sharing the link with one person. So if you're watching on Apple TV, Roku, Twitch, Amazon, Fire TV, if you're watching through YouTube, Facebook, the E. Dewey Smith website, the House of Hope Atlanta website, the House of Hope West Point website, or the Hope TV website, however you're viewing, thank you for your viewership. And so we're gonna close this segment now of our Legacy series of One-on-One. Been a great session, a great time. I'm gonna close now, but always remember this. If you'll be good to God, then God will be good to you. Till next time, peace and love. Remember, you got it made in the shade.